Last time on the Quintheo arc, Pirate Software's ex-roommate came out and spoke against him and spoke against Twitch and kind of cleared up some things that everybody was wrong about that I was right about. I knew that nothing was going to happen. I knew there was no actual fraud that was going to happen. But it's still shitty. He still manipulated his audience. He still used the hype train Twitch thing to his advantage. Who knows what we're going to be talking about in this one today. But apparently, we caught Pirate Software lying again. All right, man. What did he do this time?
YouTube by the name of Legal Mindset ended up making a video talking about the legal aspects of a recent controversy that is
we're still doing the fraud thing. Okay.
Resurfaced through one of my videos. That, of course, what seems to be Pirate Software colluding with his lead moderator Kronos to artificially keep his hype train going. I'll provide a link to that previous video.
I'd call it fraud light.
The Legal Mindsets video, and he did an incredible job going into detail talking about those legal aspects. Well, there have been some updates to this story, like the fact that we now have proof that Pirate Software and Kronos have lied about Kronos being reimbursed from this hype train. So I hopped on a call with
so maybe there is some fraud. Oh, okay. All right.
Legal Mindset, we kind of talk about a couple of things, like talking about the Twitch terms of service, some of the other legal aspects, and then we get into that update and really diving in to see what this update could end up spelling out for Pirate Software, like whether or not this could...
Dude, this is such a roller coaster. I don't know what's going on. See, that's why I keep watching the drama content, because he just keeps doing stupid shit, and everything keeps changing. I don't know what's real. He lies so much that it's all just fucked up. He muddied the waters, and now he's stuck in it. He's sinking in his own mud. The mud that he created. It's actually shit. He's sinking in his own shit.
Actually turn into a legal case. But I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Last 10 seconds. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Really helps out the channel. If that's a little too committal, just consider giving this video a thumbs up. Ends up boosting it in the algorithm. Really helps it out. But regardless of any of that, just thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy. Legal Mindset and I kind of just jumped right in, so I'm including a clip at the very beginning of this to kind of talk about Legal Mindset's history so you guys understand where his expertise comes from when we're going to be talking about a lot of like deceptive practices, things like that, for the sake of this video. What is your qualification?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a Florida Bar attorney, and I worked for the first almost decade of my career in Florida, doing real estate transactions as well as
oh, he was just an attorney in Florida. That doesn't mean he's a real attorney.
representing large corporations. I represented Universal
Yeah, I guarantee you that's what people like Hassan would think.
Studios Orlando, as well as other large developments in Central Florida, South Florida, North Florida. And then I transferred to in-house counsel, which I did for several years before I became kind of an independent shop myself. And now I primarily handle immigration law and also do some kind of freelance corporate work as well. So, and of course, YouTube full time. So I'm a very, very busy guy.
So you've definitely run into deceptive practices, things like that in your...
When I was under corporate counsel, that was one of my specialty areas. So I was in regulatory compliance. So I had to do that a lot. So I am very familiar with the Unfair and Deceptive Practices Act.
I'd just like to thank you for having the time to have this conversation. You reacted to my video where I pretty much had compiled a lot of stuff that people in my Discord had gathered, people around the internet, to showcase that a very clear, heavy implication that behind the scenes, Pirate was, with the assistance of Kronos, inflating his hype train, meaning Kronos was donating to it before it would run out to keep it superficially elevated. My biggest issue with that was, number one, I thought that broke terms of service at that time. And number two, I thought legally that was entering into a pretty bad spot because it was, you know, misleading people that were viewing it that may be potential donators, and seeing it keep going, keeping it afloat might have, you know, misled people into donating into that stream.
Yeah, here's what I gotta say about it. I think that there wasn't actually any TOS breaking things going on, technically. How Twitch has their rules set up, how they have their TOS set up, I don't think that Pirate Software is going to be banned. But I think there still might be some fraud implications.
Looked at both of those issues, and once again, I think those are issues that have been brought up not just on this but on other issues regarding, you know, the two kind of prongs. With number one is TOS, and Twitch has always had, and we've seen this kind of consistently, and
like literally the only thing that makes it fraud or not is if he reimbursed dude for donating the bits. That's what makes it fraud, and then lying about it. That's what we're waiting for.
Ability, a keen ability to selectively enforce their TOS where they decide to enforce it, and with the scrutiny they decide to enforce it. Now, that being said, that's not technically illegal. Companies can have a bias, companies can have to a certain extent, right? They can have certain leanings. They aren't required to take action on everything in their TOS. So, you know, for example, if
They are required, though, to be fair about it, because if they're obviously unfair about it, I don't think that's illegal, but it's definitely gonna cause some people to sue you.
they miss something or don't see something or something,
Yeah,
doesn't
true.
skip their system, that
Yeah, but if they do it on purpose, there's a problem.
doesn't void their entire TOS. In fact, within their own TOS, they actually have language, even in that policy under violations, they have language that says we can choose whether or not to enforce this. And if we don't enforce this, that in no way waives any of this policy, et cetera. With the terms of service side, the argument has always been way harder because TOS in their current state and with the way the law is currently written and the way that they're interpreted, right? It is heavily in favor of the company and the way they enforce the
Yeah,
TOS.
of course
That's
it is.
just the way it is.
Yep.
It's not, perhaps people think that's not fair. That's more of a moral thing or subjective thing, but legally, TOS have always been a hard argument. And
Yeah, law doesn't care about morals. It just cares about who has the most money.
going for stuff like, for example, breach of contract has been a very difficult battle, and you need a very specific violation that's very, very clear, and you need some way that they went, out of their way in bad faith to, terminate a relationship or cause damages to somebody. And it would need to be somebody that would actually have damages. So the TOS argument has always been weaker. However, the unfair and misleading side, I think that's the one of all of them,
Yep.
and especially not just for this claim, but for many, that has really been it's been untested in the context of an online platform like Twitch. There's other industries in which that has been very effective. And I'm talking about not just federal level, FTC level, I'm talking about state level, right? States have very aggressively used their Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Acts to regulate a lot of things, particularly if you think about regular industries,
Yeah, as soon as everybody catches on that Twitch is actually supporting terrorist supporters, that's going to be really, really bad, and it's going to be cause for regulation.
I was in a hotel industry, timeshare industry for a while, representing them. They were heavily regulated in certain states because their Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Acts were very, very specific. In fact, typically, in some states, it requires you to prove not just that there's substantial injury to consumers, but also that the benefit that would it give the company or give to competition or the market doesn't outweigh the damage to consumers. Now, some states, like Florida, for example, only says, no. If it harms the consumer and the consumer can't reasonably avoid it, that's enough, and they can be hit on that. So, for example, a state like Florida is a little bit more aggressive. That's my home state where I'm barred. The thing with Twitch, though, and to bring back to Twitch, is that they operate all over the United States. And so there's potential plaintiffs reasonably in every single one of the 50 states. So you could shop around if you were a inventive lawyer, one of those that puts up the "Have you been harmed by asbestos" ads, right? Have you been wronged by Twitch? And you're a big law firm that's nationwide.
Yep, and I think that's what's coming. I think there's cases being built, and it's gonna have some powerful people in all different places all around the country and even the world getting on board with this. And it's gonna be really bad if Twitch doesn't clean up their shit. And that's really what we're waiting for. We're either waiting for them to clean up their shit or to just shit all over the floor.
You're very plaintiff friendly, right? You go shop around. You might even be able to get a class action out of it because you're able to shop enough plaintiffs in a certain state and hit them under the Unfair and Deceptive Practices Act.
Yeah, they also just don't just operate in the United States. They are international.
Now, once again, I don't think the probability for that is 100%, but the thing is there's a chance. And I think anytime there's a chance, that's something that is worth mentioning.
Yes, and I did want to bring up, so I've spoken with another gentleman, his name's Mario. Now, you may know him if you had seen any of the pirate stuff a couple of months ago. There was a DMCA strike that was sent towards a game developer for using Pirate's voice in his game. Now, this is the guy who essentially did some chatting back and forth with Kronos, the lead mod who apparently worked in copyright law, although they have yet to be able to find his credentials to prove said thing. Suffice to say, they did some of that, and they brought up...
Yeah, probably... is up to date with the copyright law and how to use it against people.
The point that you're kind of bringing up here, where it's like, yes, it can be done. More specifically, I think he was arguing about pirates specifically, about this situation in particular, and was saying it's very hard at the same time because there are politics that come with this, and there are politics in regard to like who is actually going to carry a case like this. If there is enough public outcry, because like at where it stands now financially, we know the total for what the amount of donations that were received, and if it's not like a large enough number, if it's not going to swing, you know, somebody in terms of like this is going to be a benefit to them. If it's not big enough, they just might not take it. Does that make sense, or is that ringing a bell for you?
No, absolutely. I mean, they could look at the deep pockets. I mean, obviously, if they're looking at both Pirate and Twitch, obviously, I don't know Pirate's financial situation. You know, people can call him a Nepo baby all they want, but I don't know what his financials are and how much money he does have or what assets he has or whatever.
Well, he's got enough to keep a corporation running that's got over 10 employees, I think 16 employees. Plus, he's got that ferret rescue, so he's doing pretty well. But if he doesn't quit his bullshit, then he's gonna have to start shutting all that shit down very, very soon.
But Twitch has deep pockets, so if this was something that was adding Twitch as a co-defendant, right, or they're a co-party, you know, to this, obviously there might be some skin in the game that they'd want to take. But the problem is you'd have to shop, especially in the U.S., for someone that's going to take this probably at least on partial, if not complete contingency, and that is a hard bargain unless it's a good case they think they can get a settlement on. So, you know, if they think they can get a settlement on it, which means they've got a good shot on it, they'll take that, right? So, yes, it is a problem. I mean, you know, but at the same time, there could be a particularly aggrieved person who does have funds, and that's where we get, you know, that's where we get a lot of lawsuits with just really, you know, rich people that maybe the damages are low, but they take it up on principle. Even think about the Johnny Depp case. You know, he ultimately won and he won a monetary judgment, but he didn't even care about the monetary judgment so much as he did about the restitution of his revenue.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen if they keep poking people like Asmongold and Tectone and people like that. People, even Destiny would be one of the people that get on board because fuck Twitch. And fuck Hassan Piker, fuck Pyre Software, fuck all these lol cows that Twitch keeps propping up.
Right. And they also brought up at the same kind of like in congruence with what you're bringing up that there is, you know, potential if people voted, like if people signed something and put it in front of someone, like let's say from where, you know, the state that Pirate's in, if you were to get signatures for someone that was residing in that same state, like to actually take a look at it and there was enough like public outreach too, what I understand that would be another like avenue you could go down.
Yes, that's certainly one that would go. I mean, think about Stop Killing Games, right? I mean, that was localized to the EU and Britain, right? With their initiatives, right? So you could lobby Washington if there's enough people there and say, hey, we need to change this because, you know.
Yeah, I think that actually needs to be a thing. Why is nobody doing that? Why is nobody trying to get up to the higher levels here in the United States on Stop Killing Games? I think somebody needs to.
We need to change the law or update the law or have a change. And maybe that, and once again, it can't be ex post facto, which means it can't go back in time and punish Pirate for something he did before the law was changed or regulation was changed, but it could prevent that behavior in the future.
Set a
and
precedent.
That might be something. Yeah, it could set a precedent. And once again, that's moving the football in the right direction towards, you know, accountability for both the creators and the platform itself. I think that would be a good thing and would be something that people could do very reasonably, and I think that local legislatures might be receptive to that.
Okay, then I think with that, let's transition over to what I wanted to show you today. I'm going to be probably titling this along the lines of Pirate / Kronos, you know, something along that nature, lied. Because they did. And I wanted to show you where that evidence is. So the main thing that I kind of had a conniption about was when we were going through the messages with Kronos, the wording of what was going on was very strange. It says, let me know if you do. Bits is going to be the best way to do it due to the return if you need to save it.
And I did focus on the fact that he just acknowledges, Pirate himself acknowledges return, which implies a reimbursement.
Right. And then he says bits rather than tier 3s that might be better, don't know. Like they're going through this and we don't need to go like much more into detail about that. But the biggest issue is that in response to this, and I'm going to play the clip, Pirate said that in no way Kronos wasn't reimbursed. Kronos wasn't paid back.
Serendipitous Bean, yeah, that's Kronos' alt that he made. He talked about it all on Twitter. If you want to know about whatever that is, just go talk to him. He's a grown-ass man and can use his money in any way he wants to.
Yeah, the problem lies when you were conversing with him about it to manipulate the system. That's where the problem lies.
He's made that. Sorry, but that's something I'm gonna catch. He's made that official statement that he.
What? No, that $300 that I sent him, that wasn't a reimbursement in the money that he paid for the bits. No, I just owed him $300 for a bet that we did, or like lunch. That's probably some shit that he would say.
Has not
if he
been
got caught.
Correct.
Okay. It doesn't make any sense why you would say return then. That there's no return. It's 0% return. So if you are contributing to somebody, if someone sends me a super chat, they're getting 0% return because I don't reimburse them.
Yeah, he's banking right now on everybody being too stupid to realize what's going on. But he doesn't realize that he's more retarded than the masses. And we're super autistic out here, man. We will comb through everything. You can't hide shit.
Anybody, sorry guys. But there's no reason to mention or use the word return. That is an English formation, would not make any sense whatsoever. It just comes out as, once again, dishonesty, right?
It gets far worse. It gets even worse than as there's...
Yeah, it doesn't even matter if any of this is legal or illegal. It's really, really shitty, and everybody thinks it's shitty.
Setting it now, because now we also have proof that that is just a blatant lie, this like confirmation thing. But number two, you're dead on. And I've kind of chatted with people about this, but the return verbiage, like you're like, well, maybe he's talking about how much he's receiving of those bits, the 80% revenue. So, you want to get the most over to, your boss. And I was like, yes, but there are like infinitely easier ways and simpler ways, and ways that don't include return or any implication of that money going back to somebody that's going to do that exact same job, that's going to get that point across. And this is by far the strangest, most convoluted way to do that. Editor Connor here. I'm baffled that I didn't realize this as I was going through and actually chatting with Legal Mindset. But if you look specifically at the end of the line where he says bits is going to be the best way to do it due to the return if you need to save it. Pirate Software has made it very clear that what he's talking about in this specific instance has to do with the return with the bits and getting that 82% over to Pirate. So to bring up this saving part, that doesn't add up with the argument that he's making. So again, it's not tracking the argument that he's making, and it's not matching up with the verbiage that they're using in this exchange. Just wanted to add that in, continuing on.
82%. I mean, you can get almost 100% with the various money transfer methods. If you just wanted to send him money, right? You could do that by various methods and just
with bits, you can achieve that if you don't use text-to-speech. It is 100% of the bits are given to Pirate, which I talk about in my video. I was misinformed about that, but the Twitch X staff that I talked to, it's only with a third party.
Yeah, that was Pirate Software's ex-roommate also. I think that's the same person.
You lose that percentage. So they're choosing, and that's interesting too, and I can't believe I'm just realizing this now. They're going out of their way to do the 80% with the bits because they're going to be using text-to-speech, which I assume then means that they're intentionally using this text-to-speech to make sure that it gets included or like mentioned, showcased in the hype train, that they're putting messages, which I would say would probably be more like, hey, look, it's community members partaking in the hype train as opposed to just dumping bits.
Correct. Which goes towards the misleading segment, right? That goes towards the misleading argument. You're not just donating quietly. You need it to be publicly known that a party, which once again, and this is the deceptive part, a party that you have portrayed as...
And it has to say very, very good things about Pirate Software. Yes.
An independent, quote unquote, IRL friend of Kronos, right, is donating this, and that's coming up on screen, which does prompt people to spend. When people see other people...
Dude, like everything about this smells like shit.
Buying or spending, etc., they are psychologically prompted to spend. That's a very basic buying or selling tactic.
Well, then...
Okay, so either Pirate Software, who hails himself as a social engineer, knows this, or he's the shittiest social engineer of all time. Because this is social engineering 101.
Perfect. I'm glad we're making sense there. It's nice to hear a lawyer saying the same thing. What is your qualification?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a Florida barred attorney, and I worked for the first almost decade of my career in Florida, doing real estate transactions as well as representing large corporations. I represented Universal Studios Orlando, as well as other large developments in Central Florida, South Florida, North Florida. And then I transferred to in-house counsel, which I did for several years before I became kind of an independent shop myself. And now I primarily handle immigration law and also do some kind of freelance corporate work as well. So and of course YouTube full time. So I'm a very, very busy guy.
So you've definitely run into deceptive practices, things like that in your
When I was under corporate counsel, that was one of my specialty areas. So I was in regulatory compliance. So I had to do that a lot. So I am very familiar with the Unfair and Deceptive Practices Act. And typically for a prudent and conservative corporation, they try to stay well away from anything that comes close to that. And they try to develop policies and procedures that stay away from that. So when I see this corporation playing loose with this, alarm bells go off, right? Alarm bells go off that say, hey, you're flying close to the sun here. And just because, and this happens to a lot of people, just because it hasn't happened to a major streaming platform before doesn't mean it can't. You may well very be the test case.
Dude,
and you don't.
Yeah, Twitch, I think, isn't going to be existing in like 5 years from now. I think we're going to have Kick on top, and who knows who's going to be second. There might be a whole bunch of platforms fighting for second, because I think when Twitch finally dies, and it's going to, like, there's too much rot. It's falling apart in so many ways. If you see who's running Twitch and who the golden boys of Twitch are, oh man, it's not looking good. People are hopping off fast, and the more money they have to make and the more money they're not making, the more enshittified the platform has to be to make money, to justify its own existence. And so far, I think it's not even profitable. And if it keeps getting worse like this, then there's no possible way that Twitch can survive. It's going to be bad. It's going to be real bad for them. It's going to be great for us. It's going to be absolute cinema, diabolical content.
Want to be the test case. That's not a good position to be in.
Right. And I'm not trying to ask you to speculate, but it's very interesting to see the fact that this isn't. So coming from, and you haven't seen it, so I'm not expecting you to know about it, but the essential understanding about the terms of service and why they're written as they were was to protect and mitigate from like direct examples of fraud. So for instance, that exchange of bits for real currency that we were kind of talking about, it's not even.
Yeah, they don't even like have a system in place to protect against that. They're just like, don't do this. It says in the terms of service, don't do this. We're not going to ban you for it.
Even the idea that Kronos understood that he might be receiving a payment back. It's just, did you donate the bits to receive an Apple gift card? Like that, right. Like that's the bare bones, is this a almost like a telecom scam kind of thing, and protecting themselves from that.
Yes. And there's a lot of financial regulations that triggers with, converting stuff to currency, et cetera. So a lot of that, once again, and policies are, as I said on my stream, policies are a CYA for the company. Right, that they're always a CYA for the company. They're trying to protect themselves from things that are either clearly illegal or impermissible, or stuff that's going to look really, really bad, or stuff that might get them in regulatory hot water, civil suit hot water, et cetera. Right. So obviously they're not, and of course anything that's criminal, they're going to clearly put in the policies. Right. So if there's something that's
I don't think this is going to fall back on Twitch in this instance, because really, if like it all depends on whether or not Pirate Software sent the money back to him on Cash App or something. That's really what it all lies on. And if he can't prove that he didn't do that, it seems like every turn it smells like shit. And that seems to be what the shit is. Total manipulation. And at this point, it doesn't even matter.
That's clearly a crime. They're going to say, yeah, you can't do X.
Interesting, because they're not applying that at all for, in particular, if it is impacting the way that they receive money from the creators, you can very clearly see that there is a much more lax or a much less critical, like I would say application or maybe even description of those terms of service. Because like when we were talking about it, they're like, these are vague because they're addressing direct,
and like if a mod is moderating, wouldn't he be working? Should it be allowed for a mod while he is working to send money to a creator? Or, while the creator is actively working, even if the mod's not working? That just shouldn't be allowed. Honestly, it should not be allowed. It's just so many fucked up things can happen because of it. I can only see one way that it would be even any good for that to happen, is if like you're a small creator or something and the mod makes more money than you. That's really the only way that I can see it. When it's a powerful creator like that, nope, get out of here with that.
Instances of like very blatant fraud versus they're being very concise about this and they're not choosing to be critical or descriptive. Because at the end of the day, if someone is to be fraudulent in this way, because there has been no precedent set, because no one has gone after them in that way, there's only money to be lost by being constrictive in their terms of service here.
That's kind of the secret sauce of writing policies. I've written hundreds of policies, and
Okay.
you know, the secret sauce is, okay, if it's clearly illegal, you're going to make sure that's illegal, right? So something like don't murder people, right? Obviously, we all know that, right? But if it's something where they need some wiggle room and discretion, then they're going to leave it as vague as possible while still outlining it enough so that they can punish people that they feel stepped out of line. And like you mentioned, and this is very, very true on a lot of platforms, like it or not, it's just a fact. The big money earners get treated differently than the small plebs, right? So, you know, the enforcement for the large folks is different because
that's funny. The platform that is not making any profit is trying to make as much money as possible, isn't going to do anything about the creators that make as much money as possible.
Making them money, and they don't want to ban a top earner that's raking them in, you know, I don't know how much Pirate is raking. I haven't looked at his money, but let's say he's raking in, you know, 50K or 100K a month for Twitch. I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers here. They don't want to stop the money train, right? That's their bottom line.
I mean, he was a top 150 streamer. He had 15 to 20,000 viewers. He was getting paid $2,300 for 4 minutes of ad. Like, yes, he is absolutely one of those guys. Yeah,
it's a lot of money, right? Yeah, so correct. He's making a lot of money, probably six figures for Twitch. Because remember, you know, even with ad revenue and advertising, et cetera, like the creators only get paid a fraction of that, and the platform takes a lot. I mean, YouTube is no different, right? So, it's a massive money earner. Pirate was and is still, even with his loss of subs, is still a massive money earner for Twitch.
Well, with that being said, sorry for the...
Yeah, and it just looks really, really, really bad for Twitch, man. Because all these most popular creators are actual pieces of shit.
Sorry for the tangent. Let's move into, let me show you this photo. Again, that claim, to reiterate, that was said in regard to the fact that there was no reimbursement, there was no return to Kronos for this hype train. So this is the first one I'm going to show you. This was in Pirate Software's Discord. As a matter of fact, it still is, which is why it was saved. The yearly Giga Train will begin on the 1st of April, 2025, 1500. Our previous record in 2024 was level 106 at 47%. Beetle beat it on January 1st with a level 111 at 55% train. If you'd like to take part in this, I will see you there. I also have a surprise that I've been keeping from the team until now. Over the last couple of months, we've had to deal with an insane amount of moderation work. What the team does allows us...
Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why he's had to do an insane amount of moderation work.
Place to be as cool as it is, and I want to recognize that this year. 50% of the Giga Train will be given as a bonus to all of the staff members outside of myself. For those that don't know the moderators and other staff members...
Oh no! Oh no! He is giving money to his staff! So there's an incentive for them to pay money into this to boost the hype train. Holy shit, dude! Wow! Whoever found this, wow. My hat's off to you, man. There you go. There's my balding head. That's crazy.
Are full-time salaried employees. They also receive medical, et cetera, et cetera. This bonus is in addition to their base pay. Thank you for an amazing year. Hope to see you on the glorious April Fool's Day.
So yeah, no, I mean, that's pretty straightforward confirmation there. I mean, he's saying, hey, look, I'm going to compensate people. And once again, there's nothing wrong with compensating your essentially employee.
Yeah. But with that previous thing, with the manipulation and the bits and the pretending to be a different person, holy shit, man. What? It just keeps getting worse. Which I keep saying that whenever there's all of this shitty thing, all of these shitty things happening, I always say, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse.
Right?
Not at all.
Not at all. That's nothing wrong with that, right? So compensating your mods or employees is fine. You can do that, but then don't represent that they're not getting a percentage back or they're not getting any sort of quote unquote return, right?
Exactly.
Because obviously, based on that construction, assuming he follows that and does that, it's very clear they're gonna make something off of it.
And this is the shit that just like drives me up a wall. This has happened multiple times in my coverage where Pirate will say something that is provably false, like stupidly false. Like this was just a few months ago. All he had to do when I put out my video, all he had to do was say it was public knowledge that everyone, all the moderators were getting half of that hype train. And we were celebrating that fact because they earned it, because they worked hard. Done. There would be no video. I would be making a follow-up video saying I'm a fucking moron and I apologize because this makes sense, except he made an alt account, except they said that he was not getting a return, which that is not true. And if they wanted to fight the fight of saying, oh, you know what, actually,
bro, I guess we're back talking about fraud again. Holy shit, man.
we were worried that maybe you were implying that, you know, below the table.
If you've gotten this far into the video, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications, because this is some crazy shit. You got to stay patient in these videos, because usually at the beginning of the video, it's not what the information's going to be at the end.
Past this agreement that was made that we were receiving half of it, we didn't want to make it seem like by saying yes we were getting a return that was happening. We wanted to make it clear that no, we were getting half of the hype train. That would have been fine, but then you obfuscate with the alternate account. You're having these conversations behind closed doors when they didn't need to be if this was already public knowledge.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that scheme at all whatsoever. And once again, I think this is a trend with Pirate, is just his need to just say no as a guttural response, as an instinctual response, rather than saying this is a nuanced thing. Yes, they're getting reimbursed. However, right, there was no separate.
Yeah, I think the dude has a massive ego and doesn't realize how shitty he is, or like doesn't want to look at the fact that people think he's shitty because he thinks he's the greatest person ever to walk the earth. Smartest man alive.
Agreement other than the hype train agreement, or sorry, other than the overall bonus agreement, which was public knowledge, right? So there's no secondary agreement with Kronos. That's just the agreement that would have resolved the issue. That would have been, oh, okay, all right, oh, that's what he's talking about, right? So yes, you're exactly right, and I think that's one of the issues with Pirate at large. Once again, I don't cover the other drama stuff, but I have followed it enough to know that he at certain points could just say a very direct admission and just say, yeah, that's the way it is. And I think a lot of this stuff would calm down and a lot of stuff would really go away. There wouldn't be much critique.
100%. And that's kind of just where it gets in.
I think it's too late. I don't think there's anything that he can do. I think he's already pissed off the internet community so much that they're going to dig into his entire life. Every single second that he's ever posted anything online, he is going to get that exposed, because you have woken up the autistic retards.
To like, I don't think it would have been, it would not have been an issue had he just said something along those lines. That's where I fall into, and the same as like all these people that view him. And if you haven't kept up with the previous Pirate stuff, essentially my goal is whenever I'm making something like this, I'm happy to say that I'm wrong. I'm happy to, follow up in updates and be like, I got this wrong, or I agree with Pirate here, etc. And so
the same thing all the time. I do the same thing all the time in my coverage. If I discover, I'm covering the Johnny Somali case in Korea, and sometimes I'm researching, I'm working with Korean lawyers, friends who know the Korean law, and sometimes we'll find something in Korean law and be like, oh man, we just found something, we got to update our coverage because we didn't know that. Genuinely, we didn't know that. So hey guys, here's an update. I was wrong about this. Sorry, this is the updated information, this is the corrected information, go on this corrective information. And I think that brings authenticity to you, and I think that's something that's kind of missed when you just
when you say no every time to every accusation against you, and it turns out to be a lie every time, or there's a lie within it, or there's some kind of manipulation, we're gonna not believe you, and we're probably gonna be like, oh, if he's really saying no about this, there must be something there, let's dig deeper. That's what happened with this situation, with the fraud situation. This does not look good.
Can't be wrong.
Right.
That's the problem, and that's where the kind of, as I said, the lolcow status kind of comes up.
Yep.
When
Exactly.
it transforms to you just cannot be wrong.
Yeah, and so to circle back with that, Kronos ended up messaging me. It's been a minute because he's whatever he's got going on. It's a matter of I want to, because I'll see the argument. I will make arguments on behalf of either side if I think that there's a good one to be made. And something similar was happening here, where I was like, well, maybe there was an agreement, something like that. I didn't even see this at the time. And then he said, no, absolutely not. It's like, well, number one, your verbiage makes zero sense. So even if that is the truth, the fact that you aren't even addressing it, or you're giving a bullshit reason that does not explain away the issues that people have, that's weird. And that's not going to be, dismissive in any useful way for you. But then on top of that, to like go the step further and then just Like, and I'm not asking you as a lawyer to agree with me. I'm not like saying these things to try to get you like on a gotcha or anything like that. I'm not using your expertise for that. He's blatantly lying, and not in like a malicious way, not in a I'm trying to be clever and I'm hiding this fact. It's just verifiably wrong per his own Discord, per his.
Yep, he's fucking retarded. He's stupid. He doesn't even realize how shitty he is. He thinks he's the greatest person alive.
Own message showcasing that yes, there was an agreement and that all of the moderators were going to be reimbursed for this.
That seems objectively true.
Yeah, he sees that individual. He sees that separate from the behind the scenes manipulation. So he's just doesn't even realize that those things are directly connected. What a fucking moron.
I mean, if he said this, then that seems like a misstatement, right? So if that's true, that the Discord, there was that agreement, right, which between them for the bonuses, that is objectively true. Now, whether or not that's the stop point for me is, okay, is that in and of itself illegal? Well, maybe not, right? More likely not in and of itself.
Just incredibly shitty. And maybe illegal. Like, bro. It doesn't even matter if it is or isn't, if it is shitty and everybody sees it as being incredibly terrible. Does not look good.
But when combined with all the other factors, that's when the alarm bells come off, right? That's when you say, okay, well, all of these things are put together as a deceptive scheme. And
let me tell you, this ain't even it. It's not all of it. It gets worse. It gets much worse. I don't know how much worse it gets. But I definitely can tell you that tomorrow it's going to be even worse.
That's when it becomes dangerous because, you're seeing more of the dots there.
And honestly, yeah, if he didn't make an alt account and didn't act like he didn't know who it was or anything like that, if he had just kept it silent and did a donation, well, number one, we wouldn't know. So there wouldn't be an issue. But number two, there would be no deception. And that's kind of like the crux of that argument. It's like, okay, well, if you're saying that it's okay with these, well, now we need to understand why you were doing those donations to keep the train afloat. Because that, even these, the things that I'm talking about, that's more talking about how people look at this as scummy behavior. It's not even talking about the legal deception. It's
you're trying to manipulate the hype train. That's 100% what he was trying to do.
Just like you would at least be,
he was trying to break the record.
Be nearly as like this feels disgusting and deceptive as they do now knowing this.
Oh, absolutely. I think.
Yeah, he's got that corporate mindset where it's like bigger and better than the last time, every time, always. And he absolutely will do anything to get there and then freaks the fuck out when he gets caught.
From a moral, subjective standpoint, I think absolutely people feel like they were tricked, hidden from, lied to, and that's I think a natural outcome of his own behavior and his own actions. My only question is there any practical reason? So is there any limitation? Because I don't know this. I'm not an active Twitch user to that extent. Is there any sort of practical limitation on Kronos, like, for example, a donation maximum or some sort of cap that would keep him from doing it on his main account?
No, and we do have the reason for why he did this. And so he's shared that online as well on Twitter. And essentially it was people would be getting harassed by looking up, for instance, the VODs of the donations, or like when you donate on your main account as like someone like Kronos is a public figure in that group, or anyone that donated, they were saying that people were getting harassed and messaged and, found and tracked with that information, either from the VOD being saved or from it being live, people reaching out to those people.
So he's saying that he was being harassed for giving donations as a moderator?
So yes, because Pirate Software was in some hot water too with like the OnlyFans stuff. Okay. So people were reaching out to the people and that was covered in when I talked yesterday with the terms of service. They're like, well, actually they only will like go after you for impersonation if you're going up, like in terms of like if you're like impersonating Asmongold versus impersonating a friend of yours. So even if Kronos was kind of being a weird fuck for pretending that he had a friend, the main issue with that is that it's not like you're not potentially tarnishing a brand by doing that. You're being deceptive and it doesn't cover that. But my biggest issue with this argument that he made, which was he didn't want to get harassment, is number one, he did 100 tier 1 subs on his personal account before he did the others on the alternate account. So his name.
Yep. That's straight up, like at every point, it's just bullshit.
Was already there. They deleted the VODs after.
Yeah, so they did this hoping that nobody was going to see it happen. And now they're having to come up with all kinds of reasons, and there's holes in it. If it's not the reason, if it's not the real reason, there's going to be holes in it. There's never holes in the actual truth, you know?
In two separate ways, you tried to in two separate ways. Number one, it would have been corrected because the VODs were deleted. And number two, the first thing you did was donate 100 tier 1 subs under your main account. So that doesn't add up with what you were trying to prevent.
Nothing
that does
adds
not
up.
Explain, like, your behavior is not
It all adds up into it being a whole bunch of manipulation.
matching up with the excuse you're giving. Right, I guess then that makes it feel more like an excuse.
Yeah, exactly. No, it absolutely does. And once again, this is unnecessary. I think overall as a construction, it's unnecessary deception. Like, this could have been all mitigated by just being upfront with it. And I understand. Look, you know, harassment in certain circumstances can be very real.
Yeah, but if they were upfront about this one, then they probably would have got banned, and can't have that. That would have been company ruining for sure.
And very serious, you know, and
anything to keep the corporation running, am I right?
Circumstances where, yes,
no matter
you want
what,
to prevent that and you want to take measures to do that. But in this particular case, I don't think it was necessary for Pirate, especially ex post facto after the fact, to try to hide the ball.
And they didn't take those legitimate steps.
Yeah,
they took illegitimate ones, and that's
right.
But and then the last thing here,
if Twitch came up to Pirate Software and was like, all right, we're going to go and murder somebody. We're not going to do that if you shut it all down. If you shut your company down and you shut your ferret sanctuary down, if you shut all that down, then we're not going to murder a guy. And Pirate Software would be like, what? I didn't hear any of that. I didn't hear any of it. I'm going to keep streaming.
is just kind of showing the train announcement afterwards. Got all the numbers for the Gigatrain. You guys amassed a total of 75,000. It was slightly less, so I rounded it up. Half the Gigatrain comes out to 37.5. We currently have a staff size of 15, not counting me. The split evenly for all staff members comes out to $2,500. So this bonus will be applied to everyone in the org outside of myself. Payments will go out at the end of the month, and then the other 37.5 went to the ferret rescue. There's just kind of like the follow-up proof that yes, the moderators were paid out, excluding himself, which I think was expected. It's also an additional confirmation that yes, absolutely, Kronos was paid on behalf of this hype train, and they also knew full well going into it. So then it becomes a matter of, oh, now it's seeming, I would say, more clear that an argument could be made that there was also an incentive for Kronos to be deceptive about this.
Yep.
That he actually had skin in the game.
Right. Yeah. No. That adds to the evidence. Once again, it's in, you know, saying this was the arrangement before, because you said here's the arrangement before. Here's a Discord message that confirms it before. Here's afterwards confirming the payout itself. So saying yes, there's indeed a payout. Now, some people may say, oh, well, that's not equal, you know, to he's not getting 82%, but you know, there's still a payout.
Yes, and it would be in his best interest to make sure he was maximizing that to get that return.
Correct. Which, once again, let's go back to this and like reinforce this. If you just been clear about that, that's fine. It's like, for example, saying you go to, you know,
if you keep the hype train going, it's really good for the moderators getting paid for it. So the moderator's going to pay. So keep the hype train going because it's good for them. Dude, every single step of the way.
Convenience store, and there's a 2-for-1. There's a buy one get one free. You're like, oh well, you know, I'm gonna buy this because I get, you know, an extra thing for free. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm getting a bonus off of this, so yes, I have a incentive to donate more now versus later because I'm getting a kickback on this. So I'm getting at least a piece of that money back, so it goes a further way, and it helps Pirate, you know, get this hype train, which keeps his channel up, which makes everybody who's working on his staff look better. Obviously, you want to be staff, you want to be on a team that's winning, and you want to be on the winning hype train team, right? So obviously, there's a lot of incentive,
Dude,
not
so
just
much
financial, but personal.
Yeah, so much incentive to manipulate this whole thing.
To keep that going.
Yes, and Pirate was arguing that he was like focused on getting the, you know, the highest percentage to the creator, the streamer, because everyone knows, you know, you do bits because that has the highest return to give it to the creator, not to Twitch, because people want to do that, which is weird because there's a very clear other reason, and he could have just said it. But in culmination, you would say, I just kind of like, you know, I want to be able to summarize at the end here, introducing this new information to kind of confirm that yes, there was a payout. I would argue that yes, Kronos had you know, reason to take part in this ruse as well.
Yeah, I think Pirate Software's defense is basically going to be like, ah shit, I didn't know that this was fraud. But he's not going to be able to admit that, so he's just going to deny it the whole time. But I think he accidentally committed fraud, honestly. Because he's fucking retarded. And just because you accidentally committed a crime doesn't mean you didn't commit the crime.
To make that hype train larger than it was ever naturally
He just didn't realize that what he was doing was fraud.
Going to be. There was a monetary incentive with that, as well as like we can look back to Pirates.
And I think a big problem with it is there's too many steps in this fraud scheme to actually go after him legally, and there wasn't enough gained from it. But it was 100% manipulated.
Software's previous record break where he received news coverage for that. It was a huge boon in terms of clout and notoriety as well. And also, you know, everyone that participates, of course, would also be getting emotes and rewards along that train process. Like,
there's incentives all the way around for all of this to go down. It's almost like so natural for it to happen. There was no other way. It had to be manipulated for it to go down like this.
This wasn't, they're just doing it just because. There is also things for the viewers to gain. So I guess with all of that new information and kind of that presented, would you say that this information makes that argument stronger for deceptive practices, weaker? Like, where does it sit now?
Obviously, like, look, more information that they're, you know, adding that information is a brick in the wall. So yes, that does add to it. So that would add to that argument. Does it, once again, I have to be very careful here. Does that make it a killer case? It's 100% pirate is sunk? No, it does not make it that. However, it pushes it in that direction, right?
Yeah, and honestly, really all that matters is the court of public opinion. Whatever the public thinks about him is really what's going to constitute his future success. And so far, the sentiment is growing more and more that we do not like this guy. And he does not deserve where he's at right now. He needs to be pulled down a lot of pegs.
Once again, why do you feel the need to obfuscate? Why do you feel the need to hide this? Why do you feel the need to conceal this? Why not just reveal this, say, yep, this is what it was. He got a cut, just like we said, and go in that direction. So does it add to it? Yes. Does it make it a slam dunk
he cannot admit that what he did was shitty and wrong.
case? No.
And yes, and by no means anyone watching this take this as I am trying to get a green light from a lawyer to start going after like pirate or anything like that. This is much more of an exercise in like understanding what's going on and to have an expert in that field to like kind of go over it.
And for me, for me, it's like, look, this is the type of behavior, right, that you are leaning into. When you start leaning into deception, that's when the Unfair and Deceptive Practices Act is going to be brought up, and people are going to think of that. And once again, it takes, a creative or hungry lawyer.
It's definitely deceptive, but is it going to be enough for it to even matter?
Who's, out there trying to prove his name. He wants to do this on full contingency. He finds a really right plaintiff or a series of plaintiffs. He gets a class action, whatever it is. And he goes for this. And I'm not saying, I know that guy, but they do exist. They are out there. And there are people that would love to make their name as, the first guy to, hit a major streaming platform with UDPA.
Regardless of where we're sitting at with like in terms of like the actual the legal aspect of it, my biggest thing was that I wanted to confirm with someone who knows a lot more, that understands a lot more the context of this kind of situation with like legitimate, like where does this actually land in the law and things like that. And so like truly to make it clear for everybody, we're talking about this. And again, this isn't like we're trying to end up suing anybody or go to court, but it is, I want to understand that I'm not, just pulling something out of my ass. And, I wanted to make sure that we were assessing things with that appropriate context. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. And the fact that you covered that previous video and went fully into detail about something that I definitely needed a lot more of an understanding on with that legal side of it.
Yeah, my pleasure. And once again, legal issues, the thing with legal issues is there are no guarantees. You can always come into a court or face a judge or a jury, etc., that feels one way about it when you think the law is going another way.
I got one guarantee, though, that if you keep crashing out, you keep lying, and you keep being deceptive about being deceptive and manipulating people, that you're just going to launch yourself into lolcow status. And that's where he's at right now. And he's probably going to keep getting bigger and bigger as a lolcow. And he's just going to be a fatter lolcow than Boogie and Wings of Redemption combined. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all the notifications. I think Pyre Software is absolutely cooked. I think he's about to lose like pretty much his whole normal audience. And all that's left is going to be a bunch of freaks.